Hello, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Welcome to my perfect summer 2025 TBR. And I mean, if you want to be boring about it, if you don't want to be exciting about it, welcome to my summer recs. I have racked my teeny tiny little brain and looked up and down every single one of the books that I own and created what I would dub my perfect summer 2025 TBR. Summer reading is some of my absolute favorite reading, but I do think there's a very specific flavor of reading, a very specific flavor of books that fits perfectly within summer, and it just hits so much harder within summer. So I have compiled a list, a little bit from every single genre, a little bit from all over the place, taken all of those books off my shelves. Yes, my arms hurt from carrying all of them, but I'm literally just here doing favors, okay? And I will do them every single time, because if I could read every single one of these books for the first time in the summer of 2025, I believe that I would have the absolute best time of a summer. I would have the best reading summer that has ever existed. So if we're gonna state things matter-of-factly, I have compiled a list of books that I think would be super fun to read in the summer and I think would be really enjoyable for anybody to read in the summer, and there's a little bit from all over the place from every single genre so that any type of reader should hopefully be able to find a book that they would love to read, or maybe a couple, or maybe all of them, because in my opinion, if you read like me and you have not read any of these, this would be the perfect summer 2025 TBR. That's just my humble opinion. So apologies in advance for every single book that you add to your cart in the next 20 minutes, but also you're welcome. Grab a drink, grab a snack, grab a pen and a notepad, because you need to be writing these down. I'm being very dramatic about this. I've just pulled a list of books that I think would be very enjoyable to read in the summer, in every single genre, in my humble opinion. And we're gonna try, emphasis on the word try, and rapid fire all of this, because I want you to actually read all of these books. I don't want you to sit here and listen to me yap about them, because I could yap about most of these books at like a college dissertation level word count. So, okay, we've talked too much. Let's get into it. Starting off first with fantasy, because I have always thought that I was more of a spring-winter fantasy reader. However, as of late, I feel like I'm just becoming an avid fantasy reader. That being said, there are some fantasies that feel like they work better in summer months, and if you are a casual fantasy reader, I think these books would be just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, to read in the summer. We're gonna try and keep it quick. The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I think this is the perfect definition of a summer fantasy book. For some reason, this book to me reads tropical. Now, I am a visual reader, and maybe that was just I was making in my head because that's what I wanted to see. But that is what I saw. The whole premise of this world is that the two continents are connected by the Bridge Kingdom, which is literally a collection of islands that has the bridge on it that connects both the major continents. So whoever has control of the Bridge Kingdom and of the bridge kind of controls everything. So there's obviously a lot of politics going on, and our female main character is from one of the kingdoms on the other end of the bridge, and she has been assigned essentially to be married off to the prince, now king of the Bridge Kingdom. She has trained her entire life to go in there, infiltrate, and find a way to help her people, because she has always thought that the Bridge Kingdom were withholding resources, were causing so many problems, but she gets there and that's maybe not what's going on. And the romance in this, This book is the perfect balance of political intrigue and romance, and there's absolutely no magic. It's not complicated. It's just the perfect level of escapism. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This takes place in the Regency era, and the only thing that I picture when I read this book is a bunch of beautiful dresses having tea amongst a bunch of flowers. And like that screams summer to me. Our female main character, Dora, is existing with half a soul, because before she was born, her mom made a deal with the fairy, which you can never make deals with the fairies, okay? We cannot be doing that. Her mom made a deal with the fairy, selling her soul. But when he gets there to collect said soul, her cousin comes out and nicks him with a pair of iron scissors, and he only gets away with half. So she's a little bit odd. She's a little bit weird. She says what she's thinking. She doesn't experience emotions full-heartedly. However, it is time for her cousin to go and get married. So they're heading to London. They're joining the ton, and she is just her weird, quirky little self and cares too much about things. And just the romance in this one, it's just wholesome and whimsical and cute, and just, it's so unique. Light Lark by Alex Astor. I've recently read this. Again, I listened to it as an audiobook the second time so I could go on further in the series. And I read this for the first time in a 24-hour reading video at the end of Bookmas, and was truly not really a person. Like, I don't think my brain was on, because I feel like I missed how whimsical this world was and how much was going on in this world. And I think this is one of those books that you could read in the summer. Our main character is a wildling, which means that her people can literally sprout flowers out of the ground. Kind of screams summer to me. Nothing about this screams winter in any way, shape, or form. But this is like a very in-depth, interesting, magical fantasy world. It's very, very world and plot driven, which is kind of the perfect form of escapism. And if it's not like supposed to be dreary and gothic, at least that's my opinion. There is this centennial that takes place every 100 years to try and break the curse on Light Lark. All of the rulers from all of the kingdoms come back to Light Lark once every 100 years to try and solve this ancient prophecy to lift the curses that is happening to everybody's people. But the fantasy world of this, like the magic of this, the betrayal in this, the love line, and the plot and storylines are honestly very whimsical and fun, and like very escapism based. Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart, these are adult fairy tales. That's what they are. And they read so whimsical and so fun. In Caraval, we're following two sisters who have always dreamed of going to Caraval and getting away from their abusive father. When one day they get a letter in the mail and they actually get to go to Caraval. And when you get to Caraval, you cannot believe your eyes, you cannot believe your ears, you cannot believe anything that you see. And the descriptive imagery in this book is so beyond beautiful. It feels like a carnival. I feel like you can see all the beautiful whimsical dresses that these women are wearing. And it's just such a whimsical, magical, fun time. It reads YA. It's not a crazy intense book, but the imagery in this book is unlike anything else. And then going into Once Upon a Broken Heart, you have a little bit less flowery writing. It's loosely connected to characters that you meet throughout the Caraval series. You can definitely read Once Upon a Broken Heart without reading Caraval. I know a lot of people have done that. I think if you ever will read Caraval, you cannot read Once Upon a Broken Heart second. It kind of defeats the purpose. I did it and I regret it. The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Thirst is the definition of cozy fantasy. And I think about this book all of the time. Like, I think about the pictures that this book elicited in my brain all of the freaking time. Our main character's best friend is Kaz the sentient spider plant. No, it's so whimsical and it's so good. There's like dolphins that are like mermaid dolphins that are just little angels. Basically, the premise of this is our main character's worked in a library and only really converses with books. She lost her parents very young, but there's been an attack on the kingdom's central area, capital, and she has to leave. So she escapes with some of the forbidden magic books because she is like, I can't just let these books burn. And she ends up ending up at the island that her parents lived on that she hasn't really ever been to since she was a little kid, but she gets there and she's like, what if we opened an illegal spell shop? Because like, how else are we gonna make money? And the characters that you meet in this, it reads like a fun small town romance, but they're all whimsical, fun fantasy characters, and it's just heartfelt. Metal Slinger by Rachel Snyder. The betrayal at the end of this book. The twist at the end of this book. This is one of the best twists I think I've ever read in a book, seemingly ever. The world that the main character lived on is completely water. Like, it's trees above water. And to me, that screams summer. Like, I think you can enjoy this book kind of anytime, but if you're looking for a fantasy in the summer, this definitely fits the bill. The people that she grew up with, the place that she grew up on, they've always dreamed of one day getting back onto land and being able to go to the market. So she's trained her entire life working with the guard, which is already like very hard to do as a girl, especially as a girl who does not have rank like she does not. But the day that they get to go to the market has come, and she gets there and this figure bumps into her and then tries to make it look like she's stealing something and to get her in trouble. Everything kind of spirals from there. The magic and the world in this is so interesting. I remember thinking while I was reading this that I was like, this feels unique. This feels different. It doesn't feel copy and paste, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Now, this one is kind of maybe a teeny tiny bit more winter-esque, winter-ish. However, I think if you are a visual reader and you love the escapism of fantasy and like really love to dive into a world and you can visualize a world, and I really think you have to be a visual reader to enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed it, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. The romance in this is romance type love. This book is exactly balanced between a perfect, well-executed fantasy world and a perfectly well-executed romance line, and you put those two things together and it takes a lot of pages to do it well, and that's why this book is a brick. I flew through this book. I could not have read this book faster if I tried. Every single thing that happened in this book I am so beyond obsessed with. The world is so interesting, so well executed. I feel like I could see all of it. It's written very prosy and flowery, more than the average fantasy is written, but it gives you as a visual reader so much to work with inside of your head. But then also the romance is so strong. It literally feels like if you took the fantasy out of this book, it would be a very strong romance. And if you took the romance out of this book, it would be a very strong fantasy. And this book is super hit or miss for people, but if it's a hit for you, it's a hit. Enter now probably my favorite genre to read in the summer. There is nothing like reading a good summer romance. There's nothing that tops it. Summer is meant for romances. Every single one of these books to me reads like they're summer. So there is nothing like reading a good romance beside a pool, beside the ocean, in the heat, in the summer. So this is without a doubt definitely the longest part of the list. However, if you read every single one this summer, you would have the most perfect summer TBR. I'm just saying. The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. More specifically, Abby Jimenez's first interconnected standalone series that then goes into the Part of Your World series and further on and further on. I listened to all of these as audiobooks and they were actually very good as audiobooks, but the interconnectedness of them and the way that Abby Jimenez writes, reading just from the beginning, it is so fun. I think if you've read the Part of Your World trilogy and you love Abby Jimenez's writing, but you haven't gone back and read her previous works, it's worth it. And they're not as good as like Yours Truly and Just for the Summer. However, Abby Jimenez is still so in these books, and I love that I've read everything that she's written. I feel like by like the third book in this interconnected standalone series, I was like, yeah, okay, this feels like the Abby Jimenez we know and love now. Even though I did really like the first two in this series, the third one just like hit, but I enjoyed reading all of them. Happy Place by Emily Henry, but I mean like everything by Emily Henry, but specifically Happy Place because I think I want to do a reread this summer because of the summerness of this book. Each read is also very summery in my brain. Everything Emily Henry is summery in my brain because I read all of her books at the exact same time. time in a week. That was actually my very first reading vlog on this channel, fun fact. Don't go back to it. I didn't know what I was doing yet. If you're looking for a summer romance that has that little bit of literary fiction kind of stab you in the heartness to it, both Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry will hit that mark every single time. But in this book, we're following Harriet and Wynne, and they are part of a big friend group, and they were the couple that everybody loved. Everybody loved that they were together. However, they have now broken up, but they haven't told any of their friends, and they get to go to their friend's summer house for the very last time this summer, and it's not worth bringing it up that they've broken up in their eyes, so they're kind of like forced proximity. They're not telling their friends that they've broken up, and we kind of jump around between past and current timeline, and the emotional exploration in this book and the found family and the friends in this, perfect. Love redesigned and love unwritten by Laura Nasher. I am so excited for Love Arranged. It is like arguably the book that I am most excited to come out in the summer, which is saying a lot because I liked the Dreamland Billionaire series. It was fun. I read it a really long time ago. Whatever. Love Redesigned shocked me. I really liked it. I read it in a 24-hour reading video and I was shocked by how much I liked it. And then last summer I read Love Unwritten and I loved it. I loved this book. I don't know what crack is in this series or just like what has happened with Laura Nasher's writing to the point everything just keeps getting better. These are small lakefront billionaire series. They're just whimsical. They're fun. The characters feel nuanced. They don't feel like they're 600-page long romance books. They fly by. The characters are so lovable, and especially in Love Unwritten, the characters, the child that we get in Love Unwritten, there was so much more in these books than there was in previous Laura Nasher books, in that we have connections to other family members and to friends and to children that are just riveting. Really, truly riveting. Tear your heart out. But they're still fun summer small-time romances. And they read that way. They just kind of stick with you. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I think this book hits so hard for me because it takes place literally how my summers take place. She's from Toronto, but she's spending the summer in PEI, which is literally what I do every single year. And all of the places that she mentioned on the island, it just resonated a lot with me and like my lived experience. All that's to say, this is like the definition of the perfect summer read. Like this is a book that I would give my mom and be like, you want to read a fluffy, fun romance that's like engaging and well-written and you enjoy it? Well, then I'm going to give you this book. This will be a good one. Lucy is going to the island to stay with her best friend and her family. She gets there a day early, and the only thing that her best friend says is like, don't talk to my brother, don't sleep with my brother, just, we can't be doing this. But she gets there a day early, and she's at a restaurant, and she ends up meeting a guy that's just very funny, and they end up sleeping together, but then she meets her best friend in the morning, and it is her brother. And it was her brother. But now we jumped a little bit forward in time and the friend is about to get married and we're spending this summer in Prince Edward Island with all these characters. It is not a summer Rex video if I am not recommending anything and everything by Elsie Silver. However, what is different about this summer is that I have officially started the Gold Rush Ranch series and I can attest that Off to the Races is Elsie Silver level amazing. And I think everyone should read everything that Elsie Silver has ever written. I thought that it would feel a lot different than Chestnut Springs and it would feel like an earlier series, and having read the books that were better further on, it would be hard to get through these. If you told me that Elsie Silver wrote this recently, I would believe you. Like, these are better. Her new books are obviously better. She's getting better as a writer, but I loved this still. And I cannot wait to finish the rest of the Gold Rush Ranch series. Any and Everything Annabelle Monaghan, this is in my eyes the definition of the perfect summer romance read. They are so short. They're like 280 pages. She has such snippy, witty writing. She delivers punches with what she says. Like where another author might take an entire paragraph to describe a feeling or describe something that was whimsical and beautiful and very flowery, she does it just as effectively in like one sentence, and it's just so very of her own brand. I've never read writing that made me feel like Annabelle Monaghan's writing makes me feel, and her books are so short and sweet, and she makes you love her characters so quickly, but they also feel mature and they have a lot to say and they're thought-provoking. I've not rated a single one of her books below 4.5 stars, and I am so excited to read It's a Love Story. It's definitely on my summer TBR. But what I think is so cool about her books is they're so short and sweet, and you spend such a short amount of time with characters, but they connect so much with so many people that every single person connects with a different couple from one of these books, and everyone has a different favorite based on like their lived experience and what they love in a romance. But she just writes so beautifully. These books just have always stuck with me. Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This is just a fun, whimsical rom-com. This is a fun billionaire romance rom-com. I was expecting this to be okay when I went into it, and I enjoyed every single second of it. It was just silly and just fun. We're following a main character who is in New York right now because she's taking care of her sister's apartment because she has to write a screenplay based in New York. However, she met a guy at a club in New York a couple of years ago, and he has stuck with her because he implied that he could buy her. But now she gets to New York and she's at that apartment and he's across the hall. It ends up in like a fake dating situation, and it's just crazy, whimsical. It's just the definition of a rom-com. Really, anything Allie Hazelwood would be perfect to read. However, we finally have an interconnected standalone situation from Allie Hazelwood, and reading Not in Love and going straight into problematic summer romance would be my perfect ideal reading situation. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with these characters, and it's so fun. I cannot believe that I have not read another book where we get the wedding of another couple moving forward in the series. Like, because we know in this book that this couple worked out, and they're both just like fun and whimsical times. Allie Hazelwood can just do a romance like nobody else. So you should actually read everything Allie Hazelwood has ever written. However, you have to read Not in Love before problematic summer romance, and this is peak Italian summer perfection. And they're both like a little bit taboo. They're both like kind of in STEM. The snippet on the back of Not in Love is a forbidden secret affair proves that all is fair in love and science. And I just feel like that explains Ellie Hazelwood's books better than anything else can. And now entering a little bit of mystery thriller kind of action, a little true crime-esque action. This is not my biggest read genre. However, every single one of these books I think would be so fun to read in the summer. And if somebody was asking me for a recommendation for a thriller or a mystery in this season, these are the 4 that I would give them. Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is the best mystery thriller situation I think that I have ever read. We're following Lucy because she is pretty sure that she would never kill her best friend. She doesn't know why she would ever do that. That person is her everything. Maybe she did. She doesn't like, maybe it looks like she did. She was found wandering around covered in her best friend's blood. So it's really not a great situation. But this podcast host has showed up and wants to solve the case. And she's like, you know what? I want to know too. So what if we work together? Because like, I really don't think I have it in me to do that. I loved her with everything in me, but like everyone's telling me I did it. So maybe we could figure it out. If you listen to this as an audiobook, it actually has a podcast in it, which is very fun. Speaking of an audiobook that has a podcast in it, None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. There's nothing better than driving and listening to a Lisa Jewell mystery thriller. My favorite thing about her books is that you kind of already know where they're going to go from the beginning. But you sit back at the end of them and you're like, it was so much more fucked than I was expecting it could have possibly been. The premise of this is that we have a girl who has this podcast about women who have done amazing things with their lives. And this woman who is a mother from her children's school is like, hey, you should do a podcast about me because I'm right now in the process of turning my life around and becoming the woman I want to be. So like, you should document that process. So she has this person on her podcast, but then like so many things go wrong. It just, everything goes wrong. And the way that the story is told to you, riveting, literally riveting. And then for one of my arguably favorite genres, we have a little bit of YA true crime-esque. And I think both The Good Girl's Guide to Murder and The Natural series is a book that is just perfectly enjoyable, escapism, so entertaining, and could not be done better. I have been obsessed with the YA true crime genre. I have never read books that have touched both of these series to me. They are just perfect, in my opinion. In A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, we're following Pip, and she's doing her senior capstone project on a crime that took place in her town like 5 years ago, but she doesn't think they solved it correctly. This series goes so many ways you are not expecting it to, but the found family and the friendships and just the main character in this, she was so lovable. And then for the Naturals, we're following Cassie, where she has been scouted by the FBI for this Naturals program, where they basically take all of these children that have natural proclivities to skills that the FBI would want, and instead of letting them go to public school and let those skills wither away, they pull them into this Naturals program and they have them work on cold cases, but they don't stay cold cases and they end up being the cases, and it's just so good. It's such good storytelling. And I will leave you with my miscellaneous pile. These are books that didn't fit well in any other category, but I think that you should and could read them in the summer months, and they would be perfect escapism, perfectly enjoyable, but they didn't really fit anywhere else in any other pile. The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrandt. The grannies were right. The grannies were onto something. This book was crack. I will be reading everything Ellen Hildebrandt wrote. I take that back. There's like 30, aren't there? That will take me a very long time. It is like gossip core. We're in so many point of views. It's just like riveting to read about. It's this small Nantucket town where someone has bought the Hotel Nantucket and they're trying to flip it. You're in the point of view of the manager, and you're in the point of view of other people who work at the hotel. You're in the point of view of a ghost that's in the hotel. It's just like gossip and friendship and women's fiction and just fun. Like literally just fun. It literally feels like a gossip version of a book. Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. There was no way that I could make a list of books that I think you should read in an entire season and not include at least one Olivia Blake book. However, I think this is probably the one that would fit the best in the summer seasons. I think a lot of her other books being so fantasy forward, they really do read more like fall. This one, however, reads so character driven and very little fantasy magic driven that I think it's perfect. This is the story of 3 children whose father has passed away and wondering who's going to inherit this billion-dollar magitech company that he started. That's not the story of it, if you know what I mean. This is so deeply unserious. It kind of comes back around to be incredibly serious again. It's so modern while not trying to take itself too seriously. Olivia Blake does such a good job of giving you the inner workings of characters' minds, like the thoughts that another author would leave out because they don't really matter about a character. Olivia Blake gives you, so then every single time something happens and a character does something in a book, you understand every second of their motivations and how they got there, and it's just so interesting. It's so interesting. I think execution-wise, this might be my favorite book she's ever done. And like, I'm an avid Atlas 6 series lover, and that series is complex and so well executed, but this might be better. I don't know. Last but not least, and I say this with my entire chest, if you read like me in any way, shape, or form, you have to read My Friends by Frederick Bachman in the summer. You have to. The whole concept of this book, the messaging of this book that I took the heaviest is that when you're a child, time weighs so much. It weighs so much, and you weigh everything in the summers that you spend with your friends. And even though you hope hope that no one can relate to the things that happens in this story and the darkness of how adults treat children in this story. Every single person can relate to what it felt like to be a child in the summer. We're following Louisa, who's always grown up in the foster system, and for some reason, she is just incredibly connected to this painting. She has a postcard for it. It means everything to her, and this is just the thing that was getting her through her entirely fucked up upbringing. But she ends up getting the story of how that painting was painted, and you get this entire 25-year timeline story of this painting in a couple of days. It's the same way that Louisa got it, and it's just the emotional impact of this book, the way that Frederick Bachman writes. I could talk about this for hours. I think this is one of the most beautiful, most impactful books I've read, at least so far this year, and it really, really feels like a book that was written in summer and is like a romantic love letter to summer of all these children, and it's a conversation of what we owe each other and what children can do for each other and just the little things that other people do to just inadvertently show people that they care. And if you've been in a situation where no one's been there for you, how much power there is for being the person that is there for someone else. I don't know if I just said anything, but this book just like literally lives in my bones. And like, it's also beautifully written, so beautiful. You only get a book this powerful when you have an author who views the world in a very specific, unique way, but is also a very talented writer and storyteller, and when you put those things together, you get something magical like this. If my memory got wiped and I got to build my dream summer TBR from scratch, this would be mine. Let me know if you guys have read any of these and what you thought of them, or let me know what ones stuck out and you're gonna be adding to your summer TBR. I think summer reading is like some of my absolute favorite reading. It's the best time to read. The sun is out, but then also fall will come around, and I will say that I also love this time in reading, so I kind of just love reading with the season. And let me know what book is like your number one summer read recommendation, because I'm always looking for more. I don't even know what I'm gonna read this summer. I don't know how I could top any of these books that I read in the previous summers. Love you. Bye.